Today I'm Doris Benter of Library Arts, and today we are going to have a storybook, one of my favorites, Snowmen at Night by Carolyn Buhner, and a craft, which is actually going to be a drawing inspired by some of the beautiful scenes in this book. So for this project today, you're only going to need copy paper, black markers, and colored pencils. And this is just an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So let's go ahead and have a read aloud of the story before we get started on this wonderful drawing. Okay, let's get started with the book, Snowmen at Night. One wintry day I made a snowman very round and tall. The next day when I saw him, he was not the same at all. His hat had slipped, his arms drooped down. He really looked a fright. Made me start to wonder, what do snowmen do at night? And by the way, while we're going through the pages here, I want you to look for any hidden pictures, like you might notice there's a Santa face over here, or you might notice over here it looks like a bird. This artist likes to hide pictures within the story. I think that snowmen start to slide when it gets really dark, off the lawn and down the street right into the park. So here they go down the street into the park, and let's see, a few more hidden pictures here. There might be others. I'm not going to point them all out to you. Maybe you can find some. They gather in a circle while they wait for all the others, sipping cups of ice-cold cocoa made by snowman mothers. So it looks like we have a little star over here for someone playing cowboy. And we have some other snowmen coming to join in. Do you see any hidden things in this picture? I wonder. I see something. Then the snowman games begin. They line up in their places, each anxious for his turn in the snowman races. And there they go, running. Oh, did you notice the little shape down here? Interesting. And over here, did you notice anything there? Or here? They look like they're having a lot of fun. After everyone has had a chance at racing once or twice, they go on over to the pond and do skating tricks on ice. So here they are, skating, falling down, really having a wonderful time. And oh, I see a couple more hidden images in here. I wonder if you do too. I always feel like I find new ones every time I read this book that maybe I didn't see in the past. Sometimes they start giggling, and then they act like clowns. They bump into each other till they all fall down. Oh my goodness. Falling down, and yet finding some new things hiding in the snow. Do you see something hiding in the snow right here? They gather up their snowballs. The pitcher takes his aim. And underneath the moonlight sky, they play a baseball game with brooms instead of bats and snowballs instead of baseballs. Anything interesting in the cloud or moons there that you might see? And lots of snow people coming to play. No one knows just how it started, but soon it's quite a sight, with snowmen throwing snowballs in the world's best snowball fight. Oh, here they go again, really having a good time, playing with their friends. And I suspect there's a few hidden pictures in here. If you look really hard, you might see them. I wonder if you see any in this picture. Then it's time for sledding. It's a wild ride down the hill. And there they go, all the way down. Do you see anything in the moon here? I'll give you a closer look. Now you might see it. Wahoo! They yell. This is by far the snowman's biggest thrill, is sliding down on the sled toboggan style. And this, by the way, is the inspiration for our drawing today. Keep looking for those hidden pictures. Finally, they're tuckered out and getting sleepy. So they slowly gather up their things and one by one they go. Oh boy, this guy had a tough time. There they go. So if your snowman's grin is crooked or he's lost a little height, you know he's just been doing what snowmen do at night. That boy wonders, what has that snowman been up to all night? And there we go, with the last picture in the book. That too would be a fun picture to draw. All right, so this is going to be the inspiration for our drawing today. In the next video, we'll get started with the drawing itself. See you soon. Okay, so we're ready to start our drawing, and I want to go back to the book for a minute because I want to highlight the page that inspired this drawing. Basically, it's the page where the snowmen are riding down the hill on a toboggan, and there's a lot of snowmen. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I decided to focus in on just 2 because I think that would be too much to do all of them. Take a look at the snowmen. I think it's really interesting to look at the color. When we think of snowmen, we think of white. But this artist brings such a beautiful, rich range of colors between blues and oranges and pinks and even turquoise and green into his pictures, that we're going to use that to add the color to our snowmen today. All right? So think of these colors for the next video, but right now we're going to focus on the drawing. So let's put that aside. I have made a drawing up based on the image I came up with the project. I'm going to use this just as a guide for creating your drawing today. And so I'm going to put my paper, which is just a sheet of regular copy paper, on top. You will also want that 8.5 by 11 sheet of copy paper in a vertical orientation. I suggest you use pencil and an eraser so that you can erase, make changes. I actually like to use a separate eraser when I'm drawing, and that's what I did first with my drawing. But since I have a finished drawing under here, I'm actually going to use a Sharpie because I think it's easier for you to see my lines when I use a Sharpie. So that's why I'm going to do that. We're going to start with the 2 snowmen, and then we're going to build the rest of the picture around them. So let's start with the first snowman. He is located a little higher than halfway down the page. So about 1/4 of the way down the page, we're going to be working, and we're going to start with the head of a snowman. So we're going to start with just a curved line reminiscent of a big smile on your paper. Think about a big smile on your paper. Now across the top of that smile, we're going to be adding a hat on the snowman. So we're going to start right here with a curve. We're going to go up a little hill, down a little hill, and around and stop. Let's continue this one in a similar curve to the back. That's going to be the brim of the snowman's hat. Now that brim is flipped up a little bit, so we're going to add a little bit of a hill right here to create that brim being flipped up on the hat. Around the back here is going to be the cap on the hat. So put a little curve there, a diagonal here, a slight diagonal there, and we're going to put a flat pancake ellipse shape on top. So you've just made the head and the hat of your snowman. Now let's add those coal eyes that you typically see with a snowman, 2 little dots. we're going to add a carrot nose by putting a little C-shaped curve, add a triangle on, and then just put a few little curves in that triangle for the carrot nose. Now, the mouth is right behind the carrot, like this, and we have some little black, sort of seedy or stone or whatever you would use to make a snowman teeth, just like that. So you have the head and the hat of your snowman. Let's add a scarf and then the rest of the body. So right here at the bottom of the head, we're going to put a little curve like that. That's going to be the little edge of the scarf going around his neck. Now that curve is going to be followed by a nice long curve that forms the length of the scarf. We're going to come out from the neck, follow that curve upwards and stop. That is the end of our scarf. Now we're just going to add a few little tassels like this on the end. Now you can put any pattern you want on your snowman scarf. I'm going to add some curved lines to make a stripe pattern like this, going all the way the length of the scarf. Look at that, snowman's coming right along. I'm going to move my paper up just a little bit. Now we're going to add the second snowball for his body. So a big curve right here. And we're not going to go all the way together. And a big curve right here. Now let's add the next curve. Bigger curve way down here. And a big curve right there. Notice we didn't finish those curves because we have some additions to put inside of the snowman first. Let's add some buttons. One button, two buttons. They could be whatever color you want. Let's add some branch arms. So we're going to put a little C shape here, a little C shape there, and just make a skinny little branch shape that's reaching out. Skinny little branch shape, kind of wiggly line. And at the end of the branch shape, we're going to add a mitten. So here's one little mitten cap, another little mitten, looks like a little Cheeto mitten cap. We're going to come and draw one thumb and the other thumb touching the first one and follow around with the rest of the mitten, just like that. So you can see that the thumbs are grasping something. Well, what they're grasping is the rope that goes to this toboggan. So we're going to put a little loop there for the rope and two diagonal lines coming down nice and straight that are going to lead to the toboggan in a moment. Now those lines, those ropes, are going through two little loops. So we're going to put two C shapes with a circle in the center and a little like a little screw attached to the top of the toboggan. You're going to take a straight horizontal line across the two, stop right there, and now you can finish that snowman line there. Now the toboggan itself is not difficult if you follow along. It's a big roller coaster curve here and stop. Echo that same curve over here and stop. And now let's put a straight line between the two, just like that. Now, this almost looks like a shovel, right? A snow shovel. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 curves. Notice how they each echo the curve on either side. Now, we're going to make this curve of the toboggan look more 3D by dropping a straight line and then curving it around and down like that. Now, to make the back of the toboggan, we're going to continue curving, and now we're going to go at a slight diagonal all the way back. So it's like a backwards J. We're going to echo that line all the way down to the bottom. And we're gonna make that just a little diagonal and a straight line starting across, but don't go any further. Now to continue, we're going to start building the second snowman, then we can finish our toboggan, okay? So let's start with the snowman's head. So here's one snowman. He's got a friend tilting his head to the side behind him. So we're gonna put a half round right over here. That's gonna be the bottom of his face. Now we're gonna add another half round on top. So there you got the snowman's face. Now he too is wearing, or she is wearing, a hat. Before we do that, let's finish the face. We're gonna add the two dark eyes. Remember how we made the nose before? A little curve with a triangle attached. And again, that nose too is overlapping a big happy grin, like that. We'll put those little teeth in again. These snowmen are having a good time. Now, same thing we did here. Let's build the hat. This time it's a different kind of a hat. It's more like a snow, what do you call it? One of those long pointy caps that blows in the wind, like a knit cap. We're gonna continue the curve over. So that's the band around the hat. Now let's take the knit cap back as if it's blowing in the wind backwards and add some more of those curves. Again, you're echoing the same curve you just made, not straight lines, but curved lines. And at the end here, we can add a little fluffy cotton ball. So there, snowman's head, first snowman, second snowman coming right along. Now let's add the body. We're gonna come down here like this. And notice that the body is going into the second snowman. He or she, he's overlapping that snowman behind. And we're gonna take the body down and around like that. Add two buttons. And now we're back to adding those branch arms. Now these branch arms don't have any mittens on it. They're just gonna be little twiggy arms going out like this. Don't worry about any kind of mittens unless you want to put a mitten on there, and you could always do that. Don't worry about that overlapping line. You could erase it later, or we're just going to color over it so it won't show. So now we have our two snowmen. We're going to add a couple more details to the toboggan, and then we're going to work on the landscape. So it's not that complex of a picture. Let's start up here near the snowman's hat and start echoing this line right here by coming down, down, around, and curve it. Let's finish the toboggan over this way by coming over and over, oops, and it would go down. So we're just gonna have a line here and a line here as if they would match up with the lines down here. So that's probably the hardest part of the picture, was making those two snowmen, right? Now we're gonna move our attention to the background. So they're coming down a hill. So we're gonna start up here at the top, and we're gonna draw a long meandering line that comes down. When it hits the snowman, we stop and go around the snowman and stop right there. So that is the snowman's hill. Over here, we're just gonna add a few details. Maybe a branch on this kind of snowy tree, because, you know, it's winter. So we have a tree with no leaves on it up there, but we have a couple more like pine trees covered with snow over here. So we're gonna make them into sort of like cone shapes with a few little snow clumps drawn on them. So there's one. Here's another one. Again, the scarf is overlapping it slightly. And again, we're just making, it's a green pine tree covered with a lot of snow. So we're not really gonna see a lot of the green. And then finally, there's a third tree coming, again, very soft cone shape with some green patches, but primarily it is covered with snow. Now we don't wanna leave the sky plain, So we'll put a little moon up here. And we're gonna put a cloud. But instead of using marker, I'm gonna use pencil because I want this to fade into the background a little bit. I won't let the moon stand out, but I want the cloud. Now, this is where we can have some fun. Like the artists like to do, we can include or incorporate animals or shapes. You might want to put a dinosaur head in there. And over here, I didn't do it yet, but I like the idea of hiding some shapes in the snow. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe I'll hide a starfish like this in pencil. Maybe over here, I think I'm gonna hide a car. Here's the bumper, here's the wheel coming down, here's another wheel, here's the bumper for the back. Maybe I'll make it a little shorter in the front, too long. A little shorter, here's the bumper coming down, here's the wheel. And over here, here's a wheel and goes up to the back bumper. I'm gonna fix that one more time just to get it where I want it. I want a little, yeah, that looks like a car to me, okay? So you can make an animal, you can make a car. And over here, I think I'm gonna hide a little heart in the snow. And maybe, I'll just throw some snow clumps up because, you know, the snow is flying as the snowmen come down the hill. So those things I did in pencil because I want to be able to color them in color pencil and hide them. But the rest I did in marker. So if you want to go over your drawing in marker now, go ahead and take that step of doing your snowman, some of the background details, but do your hidden pictures in pencil so that we can hide them by using color. So in the next video, I'm going to show you the colors I'm going to use as the palette for the project, and we'll start coloring in the snowman. See you in a minute. Okay, and welcome back. We're now ready to start adding color to our snowmen. We're going to focus on the two snowmen, their hats, their scarf, all those details first. Then we'll turn our attention to the toboggan and the background. So in terms of color, I want to remind you of the colors that we talked about in the book. Even if you just look at the cover of the book, you're going to notice right away the beautiful rich tones in the snowmen are peaches, yellows, oranges, blues, purples. So we're going to focus on using that range of color in our snowmen. So believe it or not, we're going to actually start with a very light yellow for the snowman body. Now I'm using color pencil. I think that's really a good choice for this project. If you had chalk pastel, you could do that and get a similar effect using light layers. It would be hard to get this effect with crayons, but it's possible. And if you're using markers, it's not really the best choice for this because you're not going to be able to layer all the colors like we're talking about. So I'm just doing very, very light layer of yellow just as a base color. You think yellow snowman, it's like don't eat yellow snow. Well, for this, it's really going to work. So we're going to leave that yellow. And then we're going to move into more of a golden orange. And right over here, right near the edge, we're going to start building slowly. And you notice I'm using sort of a circular mark with my color pencil, and my color pencils are nicely sharpened. And I'm just going to lightly put a little golden glow here and up here a little bit too. Now next, I want to transition into like a lighter blue, so I'm actually going to bring in just a hint of green, a little hint of green. It has a little bit of a yellow cast. And then I'm going to be able to bring the blue on top of that. So I'm going to bring in a little hint of green here too. And then I'm going to be able to bring in a really pretty light blue, which is going to play a big role in the colors of our snowman. And these blues are coming because it's a brilliant blue, dark night with the light shining from the moon. So that's where a lot of these blues are coming from in our snowmen. So don't be afraid to bring in the blues and really emphasize them in your picture. They really are going to look spectacular when you're done. So put a light layer down to start with, and then as we go, you can add some aqua blue like this. And again, just use it in a little circular, scumbling kind of manner. It's the word we might use to describe this, as scumbling. And adding color and layering it up. And as we're going to get over here where the two snowballs meet, we're actually going to get a little darker and create a little bit of a shadow. So we're going to get a little darker right here in the crease, creating that shadowy effect. Just like that. Again, just lightly scumbling, coloring in circles with the color pencil. Bringing some of that darker blue in here, also right near the toboggan. And we're really starting to build some beautiful color in here now. I'm using that light blue to help it blend a little bit more into the orange, because we want that orange cast, but we don't want it to be the focus. It's mostly going to be in the blues, but we want to, yeah, there we go, a little darker here now as we're building up slowly, slowly, slowly the picture. A little darker in here, creating that shadow where it's touching and going around the toboggan. Just creating a little more depth, a little more darkness and shadow, and a little more in here where the hands are coming in. And we can start a little bit up here too. I might actually want to go in there with a lighter blue first. Like this. Bring in some of that pretty light green. I actually love that light green. It's like a yellow green, and it really is pretty underneath the blue, which is going to come next. Gonna bring in that light blue again. And we're going to bring that dark blue again in just a moment. We're just getting that light blue base here first. Remember, I'm not putting a lot of pressure, not a lot of pressure at all on this pencil. And I'm going to bring some of that green over here. And then I'm going to bring some more of that orange that we used before over here. Down here. Get that golden glow over here. And then that aqua blue is going to come in too. If you put a lot of pressure, you're going to build up the color too fast, and you want it to be slow, gradual buildup. So even here, where I'm going to start building it up right under the scarf, because that is where there's shadow, where the scarf is touching the snowman's body. Want to build it up slowly, don't want to be too fast with that. The buttons, I'm going to do them black with just a little hint of white in there. Okay. So you see how the color is becoming like a blue, yellow, orange. And now we can move our way up to the snowman's head. And again, he's going to have that orange glow on the side of his face, just like he has over here. And a little bit of an orange glow on this side of the face as well. So the edges have that beautiful orange glow. and under the hat a little bit. Then we're going to go into that pretty blue. Going to bring some green in again. In just a moment. Okay, here comes the green. Softening that transition from the orange to the blue. Speaking of orange, we're going to bring some orange into that, carrot nose in a minute. Like this. And don't forget, we're going to put some really fun rosy cheeks also in there. So the interior of the mouth is a little bit like a light blue with a darker blue on top. So we're gonna, this is the shadow inside the mouth, and then we're gonna put a darker blue on top of it, like that. Give it that shadowy look. Now the snowman's nose is a nice bright orange, so we can put that in there. But you also want to just add a hint of blue to add a little shadow. And the blue is the opposite of orange, so it's going to dull it down. So that's why we're doing that there. Okay, I know that you are eager, I'm sure, to add some fun little cheeks onto the snowman. So we're going to do that right here. Going to see some pink cheeks coming in here, coming into play. Again, the same thing we did before. We're going to do a circle like that, and gradually we're going to add some fun colors, and then maybe put another pink in there, this brighter pink, really give them rosy cheeks. And underneath the hat, we're going to want some more shadow, so we're going to get that darker blue over here to add a little shadow to the hat, like that. Fading it out a little bit into the green, but making it a little bit darker right under that brim. The hat itself is a really pretty dark blue, so we're going to start with a dark blue, actually a little heavier, right along the brim's edge here, followed by a lighter blue, like that. And we can actually take that blue up here. One thing I did forget to add, which I just realized I'm going to draw in, and you can do the same, is I forgot to add that there was a band right here. So right here where that curve is, there's a little band, and that band too is a really dark blue. So I'm going to get that nice dark blue in there to finish the band. And then it's going to be lighter blue here, slightly darker blue on top. And then we could bring that, a little bit of that aqua blue in right below. And the lightest blue right over here. Okay, going around the band, we're going to have some dark blue over here to kind of create that shadowy look. And then maybe we'll do some lighter blue right here. Okay, up on top, again, a slightly darker blue, not as dark as the band, but definitely a little darker. I'm gonna put that darker blue up here, top of the hat, and a super dark blue to show the crease in the top, followed by a lighter blue. There, we just gave that snowman some definition there. I like that. Now we're going to also go back to the scarf now. And this is where our pretty red can come in. We have a red, nice bright red, and you can be strong on the red here. followed by white that has a bit of a pink cast to it. So you see how the snowman's coming together here? We already got his face and his head and his body has some color. And with all those blues and greens, we're bringing in some more warmth. We had that yellow undertone and the orange, but now we're bringing in some more warmth with the red. Like this. And I think I have a pretty light pink that I was just using a moment ago that we could use for the stripes. And I'm gonna put the tassels in a bright red too. You could make this a different color. Maybe you want to do yellow and green. Maybe you want to do yellow and purple. Maybe you have a sports team that you like and you'd like to do the Rangers colors or whatever you want. Don't feel like you have to do the same colors as me, because I certainly don't advocate that. And I'm just going to do a pale pink in place of what is sort of a purplish whitey color. So I'm going to change it just a little bit. And let's get into these arms. Now these arms are going to be in the brown tone, so I'm going to start with this sort of lightish brown tone for the branch. But then I'm going to bring a darker brown in, like this. Give it a little more depth, dimension. And the gloves are going to be in that dark red that we used on the scarf. And then we're going to add some color to add a little shadow too. So first I'm just going to block in the red like that. And then I'm going to add some dark green to add a little bit of shadow. That green just creates a little bit of a cast shadow here and here, here, and there. Just adds a little bit. The string on the toboggan, the rope, is just brown. Okay, let's move on to the second snowman now, and we're going to again start with that pale yellow. Seemed to take a long time to do that snowman, right? But they're the star of the show, so you want to make sure you've spent the time, you're pleased with the outcome. And here too, we're going to use yellow, not in the mouth, but again, just lightly scumbled all over. But now we're going to bring in the light blues. Actually, we're going to bring in that orange first because it has that beautiful orange cast in the corner again. Right here, right here, right here. Like a rosy glow on the snowman's face. Okay, now we're going to bring in some pale blues. Going all the way up here to the shadowy part. And really, if you have a lavender, that would be amazing. We can bring that light green in again to help a little bit with that transition. And little aqua blue up here for the shadow. Bringing it down a little bit, lightening it as we go. And if you have a that purpley blue again, bringing that in as well. They use more of a lavender. I'm going with a blue, but I like the way that looks. Okay, so we have the orange up here already. Now we're going to bring in a little bit of that green again that I like so much. And that light blue. Come under the chin again for the glow of the shadow and across the belly of the snowman up to his scarf. getting lighter as we get over here. Now, actually, that pretty pink we had, there is a kind of a pink hint that wasn't so much, except for maybe a little bit over here in this snowman. And we'll add just a little bit, because I like the idea of having it in both snowmen. Like a pink cast. Okay. I'm gonna also do little black buttons. Now we can move up to the face. We already have that pretty orange. There's a pretty pink that we're gonna use for some fun cheeks. But we need to get back into the blues again. So I'm gonna bring the blues over here, around the bottom, the sides, especially around the mouth. And inside the mouth is that same light blue followed by a darker blue. That shadow is created by the blue. And then the darker blue that we had is going to come in and darken it up a little bit. In fact, on the first one, I feel like it could be even darker, and I could put a little bit of purple, just a little hint of purple in there. Okay, now going back to the cheeks, we can also bring in that other color I had that's great for the cheeks on the snowman. And of course, don't forget about the orange for the nose, and the same kind of green, adding green to add a little shadow just on the edge. Okay, now this snowman up here has a red and blue hat. So we're going to start with a little rim of dark blue. And again, you can put more pressure on your pencil for this. And it's not filling the whole band here, just a little edge. Like that. You're going to bring in some nice bright red. So it's the same red that we used before. So you have a red and blue band here. Then you're going to have alternating blue and red stripes. So the blue here, and again, you can press firmly. You don't need to build up a lot of color. This is a bold hat, like the scarf was a bold scarf. And boy, those snowmen are really looking good now. We're going to move on to the arms next. As I said, in the next segment, we'll talk about bringing some color to the toboggan. And then we'll get to the background. This will be red too. And this one will be blue. A little blue there. And for the pom-pom, which actually doesn't appear in the original, I'm just going to take a little pink, and I'm just going to make it a pretty pink pom-pom. Okay, arms will be treated in a similar way. We started with that kind of golden brown, and then I went over it with a darker brown. So I'm going to do that again on the two arms. Take in a little bit of a darker brown here to finish it up. And I'm pressing firmly on the pencil. I'm not concerned about going lightly. Let's let that yellow-brown stay, but basically, there you go. You have your two snowmen. Put a little bit more shadow up here, perhaps, because again, that is where the cap is touching the snowman's head. And a little more shadow down here. This one went a little faster, you'll notice, than the last one did. Because we've had that experience of doing one snowman, you can kind of see where you can go with the second. Okay, we're going to stop right here with your snowman, and next segment we'll start with a toboggan. See you in a minute. Okay, so welcome back. Now we're going to focus our attention on the toboggan. We have our two snowmen done, their hats and scarves. They're looking very, very colorful. So for the toboggan, I have a range of browns from warm, soft browns to deep browns. I have a little black and I have a little bit of gray. So that's a good color range to start with. I'm always an advocate of starting with the lighter colors first and then building gradually up to the darker colors. So I'm gonna suggest that you might wanna work in the same range. You might wanna bring a couple extra browns out, like I have a couple red, tawny browns here, orangey browns, just to kind of give you a nice range of browns. That's why I like color pencils, that you can get a beautiful range of colors. You don't quite get that ability with markers necessarily, unless you go by very specialized markers. Okay, so I'm going to start by just laying down a coat of this sort of soft brown. Again, scumbling, filling in, not being too precious here, because this is not like the snowman where we had to kind of craft the feeling on the snowman to get that real three-dimensional look. This is just putting down a base color just to get started with. Now you notice I'm going across, but as we get back to shading, I'm gonna go back and go vertically with my marks to give it more of a rounded three-dimensional look. Okay, with that down, I'm gonna start bringing in a little darker brown and noticing, as I said, I'm gonna curve my marks to go in the shape of the toboggan. If you do flat, straight marks, you're basically flattening out the form. So you want your marks to kind of mimic the shape of the form to really make it feel more 3D and less flat. So let's get this front of the toboggan in, and then we'll use that to do the rest of the toboggan. Okay? So again, we're kind of having a little bit of a butterscotchy walnut color here, layering together. That sort of butterscotchy caramel color went first, and now I'm doing more like a walnut brown. Now these lines where the black is are going to be emphasized by a sort of a richer brown tone. So I'm going to use this reddish brown to give some emphasis to those lines. And then I'm going to come in with some darker, more of a chocolatey brown to add a little more dimension to the planks of wood that are curving around to create the toboggan. Here, and I'm going to actually add a little bit of that red tone in here. Now I have as I said, a more chocolatey brown I'm going to use on the inside. It's also beginning to give it a little bit more of a wood grain look by layering the wood. It's almost like you're seeing the grain of the wood. So I'm doing it for that reason as well. So coming around here, layering, rounding, curving to get the curve done in the toboggan. Again, curving, rounding my mark, going in short strokes, but making sure it curves to really emphasize the shape. So just like we did with the snowman, we layered several colors. We're doing the same thing here. We're layering colors, building them up gradually. Now, this edge of the toboggan should be very dark. It's like when we were doing the dark blue near the edges where the snowman meets the cap or the scarf meets the snowman. So you can make that very dark here too. And we'll lighten it up and do the same build-up that we did before on the rest of the toboggan. If you want to make sure that that arm comes out, you might want to come in here with some orange, maybe some white, just to kind of give it an opportunity to, yeah, lighten up and be visible, overlapping the toboggan right there. Okay. Now notice how I tend to keep my colors that I'm using frequently in my hand so I can just quickly grab them and go. It's a good idea if you don't want to have a whole handful, but if you want to have 4 or 5 colors that you're working to use on a certain area, you can do that. And then that allows you to go back in quickly and shift as you build up color. So there's that one, and then last time I came back more in with that walnut color on top. So I'm doing that again. And this time, instead of using that reddish brown, I'm actually going to use a more shadowy dark brown for the black lines, which is going to emphasize the planks of wood where they join. This is going much faster than the snowman part did, right? But now it feels like the center stage of the picture is almost completed. So here, I'm going to really give some dark emphasis also where the snowmen are touching and overlapping the toboggan. So I'm giving some nice dark lines there. I might come in here and just go over the black with this brown just to darken it. The black is still very prevalent. Here, darken it, and a little bit of darkness in here, just where it's beginning to curve up. Just a little bit. Just a little bit here, and a little bit here. Not so heavy. And a little bit over here, and a little bit in there. There's your toboggan. Basically, that's done. If you want to come back in and you want to put a little extra attention near the edges, you can come down a little bit with some darker brown, just a little bit. Maybe put a little emphasis on the bottom as it's turning. You can do that. But pretty much we're done with the toboggan, and now what we're going to do is turn our attention to the background, okay? So we'll do that in the next film. See you in a minute. To the background surrounding the snowmen. So let's first focus on getting these trees done. So we're going to go back to our brown, and we're going to color in the tree with some dark brown and with some of that golden brown. So we're going to have a little bit of both. Giving a little bit more light to one side of the tree, making it a little more dark on the other side of the tree, and we're going to give a little bit of snow capping to the branches. So the snow is going to be in a light blue range, and we will be bringing a darker blue later on, but we're going to make it look like this is snow sitting on the branches of the tree before we bring in the darker blue sky. Over here too, we have a couple trees, and what we're going to do there is we're going to use some blues to represent the snow, and then we'll have the little patches be the green showing through. So we're going to put some blue in here, and then the other two trees, we're going to put a pale blue again as a base, and then we're going to come back with some darker green. Like lighter blue right there. We're going to add slightly darker blue on one half, just to create a little bit of a shadowy feel, and keep the lighter blue on the other half. So you see how I'm just building that up a little bit? Now we're going to take that dark green, and this will be like the green pine tree coming through the snow. So that blue really represents snow, although you'd think that these pieces were the snow. This is actually the tree peeking through all that green. This is the green. Like this. Peeking through, okay? And I'm just gonna touch up some light blue over here, where I feel like I maybe missed a few spots. There. All right. Up here in the moon, I think I'm gonna give it a golden, pick up that golden yellow that I loved using before, with maybe a little regular yellow mixed in. Okay. And now we can start thinking about the snow. The snow, not surprisingly, is going to be very heavy in the blue range. This artist is all about blues, so I'm going to be having all my blues right here, ready to go. So I'm not going to worry about the shapes hiding in the snow yet. I just want to get the snow lightly blocked in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block in the snow all over this shape, except for the little drawn shapes with light blue. I want you to do the same, and rather than take up all that time showing that, then I'll come back and layer more blue on. So I'll see you in just a minute. Finish blocking in your snow with a pale blue, and then we'll build up the blues on top of that. All right, so at this point, we've just blocked in a light pale blue for the background. Now we're gonna deepen some points of the snow. We're gonna leave these little, whatever hidden shapes you put in, leave them for just a minute. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna build up some of that color where shadows are being cast by the toboggan and the snowmen. And we're just going to deepen the blue with a pretty aqua blue first. So this is like a shadow of the toboggan coming down the hill. And we might even just put a pale blue over this shape in the same color. But we're going to come back and do more attention to that because we do want it to kind of show up, but subtly. So we're going to leave it lightly for now covered, but come back and add more. So here again is the shadow cast by the toboggan into the snow, which has a blue tone all itself. And we'll put a light, again, a light blue tone over the star that I put in mine. Again, you may have chosen to do something different. That's just what I chose to do in mine. And we're gonna come up here and we're gonna have a little bit of a snow spray coming out and over here where I started to do a little snow before. I had those little shapes, so I'm gonna just come in here and darken the edges of some of those little snow shapes I was drawing. That, and like that. Now we're gonna come back again and we're gonna darken it just near the edge of the shadow. So again, just giving some emphasis right where the toboggan's hitting the snow. So darker right here, but not darker everywhere, just darker in some places. We're gonna put a little darkness down here, again where the toboggan is hitting the snow. And a little, just a little darkness coming off the snowmen as they glide down the hill. And again, I'm just gonna very, very lightly go over my heart. Gonna come back later and definitely put more emphasis there, little more, just a little bit more dark blue here, but we're gonna keep it very, very light up here, so I'm not gonna do much of that dark blue. We're gonna get in there with the aqua blue, put a little aqua blue in here. And we're gonna go back to that beautiful orange color too, because they have that lovely orange coming down into the picture here. Part of the picture, just picking up the same kind of beautiful orange tones we put over here, and here, and here, and here, and here, bringing a little bit back in there. Okay. Now, what about those shadowy areas, those shadows that they love to put in the pictures? What do they do to make them hide but yet stand out in the pictures? Well, they use blues and purples, and we just put down some blue. But I think that what they really like to do is bring in some purples to help the shadowiness of the shape stand out like this. And I think I might add a little bit of green too in there. So I'm going to put in this shape a little darker near the edges, so I can really actually make it a shape that is seen hiding in the snow. And I'm going to put some of that pretty light green in it too that I love so much. Just again to help it stand out a bit and to be somewhat recognizable as an interesting shape hiding. I'm going to put a little bit of blue around it, again just to emphasize the shape of the car in the snow. So the idea is it's hiding in the snow, but it's a little bit visible. Like that. Then up here I have a starfish. I'm gonna put some purple on that to make it stand out a bit. Just lightly though, because again, I don't want it to be too emphasized. Maybe a little bit of that green again. Not too much. And a tiny bit of the dark blue, just to help it stand out a little bit. But not a lot. I don't want it to be too strong. And then over here, don't forget I had that heart. I might even put more of the pink in that one. I had that light heart here. I'm gonna start with some purple. I'm gonna pull in some pink, because doesn't it make sense for the heart to have some pink in it? I think so. Now, I think that's good for now. Let's talk about the sky. Now the sky is a really dark blue sky. It's actually got to be darker than the snow, which is, it already has its own blue cast, right? So we're going to block it in, and I'm going to use the kind of the pale blue I used before, but I think I'm going to use that aqua blue on top. So I'm going to just quickly block it in. Notice how I'm just using the side of the pencil, and I'm going to go over this cloud, around the moon. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time worrying about details here, because all I'm doing is putting a base layer again on top of the sky. Like this, like this. Okay, now this is where I'm going to go darker with this aqua blue on top, like this. And I might put some purple in it too, but right now I want to keep it in the aqua blue. Again, I'm not going to be too fussy because I'm going to come back and I want to emphasize some of those shapes again of snow plopped on top. And I'm just going to go around my rabbity cloud here because I don't want that to be too dark yet. I do have a purple, and I'm going to bring some of that purpley blue in. Where's that purple I had? Here it is. I'm going to bring some of that purpley blue in too, because it really is supposed to be nighttime, so we want to make sure that the sky feels relatively dark, especially around the moon, I think. So we're going to put some purple in here along with the aqua blue. Because I really want it to feel darker than the snow. And I am working faster here. You could work much slower. And you know, one thing to remember about the benefit of these kind of videos, tutorials, is that you can stop the video. Feel free to stop it, slow it down, get in there and do the more detailed work you feel like you want to do. And you're feeling like, oh, I can't go that fast. That's okay. That's perfectly permissible to go in there and slow it down and get the details. Notice also that I use the paper here along the edge so I can go off my paper and not get all over my desk. That's a good thing to remember, that you may want to be able to go off the paper, but you don't want to feel confined by the edge of the paper. So just put another paper underneath it, and that'll absorb any marks from your color pencil. It'll go right off, and it won't be a problem. And then you can go in here again and make it darker with the purple if you want, which is what I'm doing. Making it maybe a little darker on top of the hill. And in here maybe. I may actually have to bring some white in here to bring those trees back out, which I might do next. Now, in terms of my cloud, I think I'm going to bring it in the pink tones here around the cloud, all pink. But then I want my rabbit to show, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do some work to make sure the rabbit is showing a little bit, so it's not completely lost in the cloud. And I can bring some white in to lighten it up a little bit so that the rabbit shows up. Lighten up the pink a bit, blend it in, because I want it to be subtle. I don't want it to be super, super dramatic. But I do want to see a little bit more of my rabbits. So I'm going to bring some green in too. Really colorful cloud going around the moon. And then I think I'm going to put a ring of blue going around my moon to also kind of bring attention to the rabbit. A ring of blue like that, and maybe a little bit of blue on top. Yeah. Okay, and down here, because I want my trees to stand out a bit more, I'm going to add a little white in there, just to emphasize the light blue. And also I wanted that snow to be showing on top of these branches, so I'm going to bring a little more white over here, here, and again lighten up the blue over here. Well, there, I think we basically have it. We have these beautiful snowmen sliding down their hill on their toboggan with a beautiful night sky and some fun little shapes, which you can bring out as dramatically if you want. Like, say I want to bring that heart out a little bit more, a little more purple maybe, hidden in the snow, creating a fun tribute to the wonderful book, Snowmen at Night. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure working with you. I hope I can work with you again in the future. This is Doris Penter of Library Arts, and I just want to encourage you to stay creative. Bye-bye.